Hello, welcome to Gameology Space. I'm Bill. I'm gonna do something different this time. I'm gonna start the devlog for a new project in the idea phase. So even before I have any code written down, I figured I start discussing just the concept, various ideas that may or may not end up being in the project, just so people can see the full design process. The new project is going to be built in Quest Pro mixed reality. I know that's not going to be something that's accessible for most people because Quest Pro is super expensive. But that's what I want to build. So the idea came from a video I saw on LinkedIn. It was a commercial mixed reality project that showed a facility operator, I think, that are going to do routine checks, and there are dots in the warehouse or the building that guide that worker to the location where he needs to do whatever he needs to do. And when I showed that video to my wife, she was like, "Oh, those little dots look like Pac-Man." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does look like Pac-Man. I bet I can make a game out of it in mixed reality." And why mixed reality? Because I want the player to be Pac-Man, running around physically. That'd be cool. Imagine ghosts chasing you and you have to run around the course. And so I did some research. The maximum Guardian size for Quest Pro is 15 meters by 15 meters. For those that don't know metrics, it's about half of a basketball court. And I did some running around a basketball court to test this out and see if the size and the scale make sense. And it's a pretty good workout. To run from one side to the other side in a half court takes 5-6 steps, and imagine all the turns and twists you have to do in the maze. That's a pretty decent workout, I think. So I'm gonna test this out, or that's the plan, is to build a mixed reality Pac-Man with the full-size maze. And I actually made a sketch. Hold on. So here's my crappy sketch. Blue is the maze, and you probably can't see it, but the orange are dots, and this is Ghost. There's Pac-Man. Just from here to here, 19 squares. From here to here, 17 squares. If you divide that by 15 meters, that's about 0.7 to 0.8 meters per square. So to run from here to here is actually the home for the Pac-Man is about, where the penalty shot is, the circle at the penalty shot. That is about the size of the penalty shot circle. So in terms of scale, I test this out in the real basketball court, and it seems doable. So the plan is to build it fit a half of a basketball court, and you start running around getting the dots just like a regular Pac-Man, but with virtual ghosts chasing you. You have to avoid it just like playing Pac-Man. How do you teleport? Well, obviously you can't teleport in the real space. So where my X is, instead of teleporting Pac-Man, I'm gonna take the whole thing and mirror I'm gonna take the whole stage and simply mirror whatever's on it to the other side. So if Pac-Man was here and a ghost is chasing it, mirroring it would mean the ghost would be here. Pac-Man is still here, but ghost would go into here. The ghost can teleport. Pac-Man cannot. So, sorry, my hands all over the camera. So the idea is you mirror the stage with the player in place, but the virtual ghost can teleport. So I think that's the idea of how to work around the physical limitation. So how do I make this a complete game? So to be honest, I've never actually played farther than the first stage of Pac-Man. I can't even remember if there's a second stage or a maze of different layouts. So I'm just gonna make this a single stage experiment, and the way to make it fun is I'm thinking of starting the ghost speed slow. As each time the player completes it, I'll bump up the speed, and you'll be starting with walking and then fast pacing, and then you're going to be running, and then you're going to be running as fast as you can as you progress through different, each time you complete. I'm going to bump up the speed of the ghost until you can't outrun the ghost anymore. So that's going to be fun and a workout. What else can I do? I could add abilities to the player and make it so that it'll give you some advantages to advance to the next stage, even if you can't outrun the ghost all the time, because it's going to be tiring. You might want to slow things down. So maybe while you're playing and running, you can do some hand gestures or yell a command to either slow down the play temporarily or do this, and the game will pause for 3 seconds. You also can't move, but everything freezes for a few seconds for you to catch your breath, look at the surrounding, and come up with a plan to outrun the ghost. So there's plenty of options that I could give the player some advantage. I'll give that thoughts more later. But how do I prevent a player from going through the walls? So that's another interesting question, because the wall is physically not there, obviously. It's just a basketball court, but it's going to be raised up to a certain height, maybe to the waist of the player, and you have to run within the maze. You're not supposed to. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Can you see better? Okay, so the player is supposed to run around, but there's no physical limit in the real space. So how do I tell the player don't just run through a wall or don't go out of bounds? For now, let me know if you have better suggestions. For now, I think I'm going to have a prefab in the allowable path that's at the same location as the player. If the player collides on collision, if the player collides with the wall, I think it's okay. But if it's... So let me draw. So if the player collides with the wall, that's okay. If the player is in the wall, that's probably okay. But if the player is on exit collusion and the player is outside of these not playable area, then I would probably make I would initially have a prefab at the same location as the player. If the player exits out of the playable area, that prefab stays in the collided space. The player then will see the prefab is still left behind on the wall, and that's a cue for the player to go back and kind of repossess the Pac-Man and run back on track. So that's one way to do it. I don't know if there's another way or a better way, but I'm going to go with that for now. So that's essentially the project. MR Pac-Man running around in a basketball court, chasing by virtual ghosts, and people on the outside watching is going to think this guy's crazy. On the technical side, I have never built a mixed reality game before. I have done some VR courses. It'll be my first time, as usual. So, venturing in unknown land. Hopefully, there's enough YouTube videos and support documentation from Meta that can help me work through this project. So that's all I have for this week, just ideas on paper. I will develop this a little bit more next week and come up with a plan on how to break this project down into smaller pieces so I can tackle small pieces one at a time. All right, thanks for watching. See ya.